And Todd, welcome to Tennessee Power Up. So one of the things you're going to be talking about is pre-foreclosures and what options the seller has, and also how we as place agents can help them. So I think you've got a slideshow you want to share.
Yes, and we will, let me switch screens here and one second, I apologize.
That's all right. And then Todd, I don't know if you got in your presentation of this, but tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're located too.
Excellent. And can you see that screen now?
Yep, sure can.
Excellent. No, I am Todd Johnson. I'm part of the Envoy leadership team. I've been with Envoy for almost 13 and a half years, and then mortgage banking for 22. Based in Louisville, Kentucky, and I have the privilege of being a producing leader. So I directly handle loans and then manage individuals throughout the Midwest and the Southeast for Envoy Mortgage. And I, on the personal side, I'm a very active real estate investor. I regularly am flipping and renovating properties to add to my portfolio. I've got about 30 properties that I self-manage, and I also own a portion of a property management company as well. So I live and breathe all things real estate and all things mortgage. Today, we're going to talk about distressed properties. You can say that default, pre-foreclosure, all those meaning kind of the same thing. But my goal today is anyone who's watching this walks away with a better understanding of where they can create opportunities within the distressed properties. So going to do market insight, kind of go through the stages of default and foreclosure, the options available to the homeowner, when and how you, the realtor, can help, dig into wholesalers a little bit, and then at the end, the realistic next steps for the homeowner. So first slide that I have here is at the end of last year, showing mortgage delinquencies by the type of loan and the total amount. So it's important to note that the early defaults are still historically low in our country. Historically, over many decades, traditionally 5.25% of all mortgages are in default of some type. Right now, we just surpassed right around the 4% mark. So even though we're below historical numbers, we are trending up, an expectation of defaults trending up in 2024 and 2025 is an expectation of most economists. You'll see the green line there is all loans. So showing the very end of last year, 3.88% of loans were in default. I just really want to point out that the FHA loans and in the blue line are more than 3 times the default rate of total loans. And you see they all kind of trend together across there. So that kind of shows you why we're talking about this topic. So stages of default and foreclosure. So start off with whether someone says this is stress or is in default, kind of the same, but yet different. So within the process, the mortgage payments due on the 1st, the individual has a 15-day grace period to pay that. So on the 16th of the month is when late fees are incurred and they get that late notice. Quite often people think that, hey, I've been late on my mortgage, but in fact, by credit standards, they've never been late because they've not gotten to that 30-day mark. So you can see then the third bullet point, if not paid within 30 days, that's when a loan officially enters default, or known as a 30-day late in the mortgage world. They continue not to make that payment. 2 months goes by, it now is considered a 60-day late, and then another month goes by. The servicer after that 90-day mark is going to actually send a breach or a demand letter to the homeowner, basically noting that they're violating the mortgage for non-payment. And then this is traditionally what's considered pre-foreclosure. Everyone may have a little bit different definition, but historically speaking, after someone is 3 months or 90 days late, they're officially in pre-foreclosure. After the 30 days late is when they're in default. So depending on the technology and the resources you have available and how you're using distressed properties for marketing purposes, there's different times of when you can step in to solicit a client to potentially help them through the process. On the right side of the screen, you'll see kind of the rest of the foreclosure proceedings. Traditionally, around 120 days is when the foreclosure proceedings will start. That's when an attorney is normally hired by the servicer. And you kind of see there in Tennessee, every state's different, but in Tennessee, the most common foreclosure action is by advertisement. So basically through newspaper or some type of public service, they're going to present that property for sale, usually for 3, 4, or 5 weeks. And after at least 3 weeks, the attorney or the auction company will conduct the foreclosure sale and ultimately sell the property to the highest bidder. So if you kind of go from the beginning of when a payment is due to when the individual is technically losing their house, it's normally going to be somewhere between 5 and 7 months. You know, it can go longer than that, but whether it's in our part of the country or in the coastal areas, traditionally in less than 7 months is when someone will physically be out of their property and lose their home. Kind of going back, 2 things to remember as we go through here: default starts at 30 days, pre-foreclosure starts at 90 days. So kind of going back to this market insight, kind of backing up a little bit, this once again is at the end of last year. Even though they look at some things monthly, the big reports come out on a quarterly basis. Want to show this just for the fact that you can see from 2022 and 2023, overall, there is a relatively consistent amount of individuals that are in some type of default. You can see the number here is 3.1. Reason I share this with you is that the other will show 3.88. There's 4 or 5 different institutions that track this, and there is a variance between those numbers. However, the trend of all those is that defaults are increasing and most likely will continue to increase. And the last chart for the day is showing the one I think is really the most important, and that is the individuals as of Q3 of 2022, and then projected going all the way through this year, the amount of individuals that are 60 days past due. The reason I share that is, traditionally speaking, individuals that get behind by 30 days or up to 60 have a greater chance of being able to catch up on those payments. However, individuals that end up going more than 60 days past due rarely end up getting caught up on their payments, and ultimately it leads to either losing the house or needing to sell the property. You see at the bottom of the screen, and it's estimated around 1.1 million families in the country right now are more than 60 days past due, which is the opportunities that we're talking about, opportunities to help homeowners and potentially help you grow your business.
Now, Todd, historically, what has that number been, that percentage of total homeowners?
Historically, the number is technically higher than what it is now. Going back to the chart, we're still, generally speaking, we're about 25 to 30%. We have 25 to 30% less individuals that are in default, and that main reason is people protecting their equity. We have historically high equity in our houses. However, we're at a 2-year run now of consumer debt breaking new records month after month. So this is my personal opinion. That the increased cost of goods and consumer debt continue to go up. It's putting a bigger strain on overall finances, and that's why I personally think we'll continue to see defaults increase. Whether they surpass the traditional 5.25% that we've seen on an average, I don't know. But to me, the opportunity lies in helping these individuals at the right time, which is early in the default process.
Okay.
So this right here probably is the most important of all the slides I'm going to share today. Is in default, what are the options? Meaning, what are the options for the homeowners that are currently distressed? I literally listed every single thing that's here, and we're very selective on the words that I use. So on the left side, are the bad or unlikely options. Obviously, bad and unlikely are not the same thing, but I kind of put those together. Number one is it's unlikely that someone pays the past due balance, in my opinion, if they're more than 2 months behind. Next is, it is highly unlikely that the individuals are going to refinance into a new mortgage to restart, because at that point, they most likely have more than 2 mortgage rates, which makes them ineligible for most loan programs. At the same time, most people wait too long to consider refinance. Next is going to the current servicer or lender to negotiate a modification. It's something that most people think that happens, on a regular basis. However, getting a modification approved is very, very difficult and does not happen very often. Servicer who's taking care of your mortgage payments is not the one who can actually do the modification. So the other ones you're starting with. So the process of getting that modification is very time consuming and ultimately not going to be traditionally approved by the lender. Fourth bullet point, request a forbearance. I think most of the population had no idea what a forbearance was until 2020, when a lot of different things were entering forbearance during our COVID time. I can tell you now, getting a forbearance is not likely unless there has been a major event that can be clearly documented for the homeowner. In that case, a forbearance may be issued by the servicer. And basically what a forbearance is that they're going to allow the individual to make a reduced payment, or they're going to allow them to skip some payments and add those payments and that interest on the back of the mortgage. Once again, it has to be a very, very unique situation, and the servicer or for the lender to grant that. In most cases, someone's not going to have the situation to warrant a forbearance. Next is deed in lieu. Most people don't know what a deed in lieu is, and the very basic version of that would be someone who's in the default process and potentially on the verge of losing their house. Instead of it going all the way through the process, they negotiate with the lender to basically give the property back in an organized manner. And by giving the property back in a professional organized manner, they still lose their house, but they're giving the home back. In a lot of cases, they're giving back what equity could exist in the home. A deed in lieu does not happen, very, very often. And once again, it traditionally takes a very, very long time. And traditionally it can involve attorneys, so not a likely option. And then lastly is the old dreaded FSBO, the individual who is behind on their payments, thinking they could sell the house themselves during that period of time, which we all know is not going to be the ideal way for them to potentially sell that property. So on the right side is what I call the realistic. Yeah, go ahead.
On a question on FSBO properties, because we see those pop up, on different sites like Zillow and some FSBO and for sale by owner.com. Is there a thing that we can cross-reference to see if they are 90 days past due?
Not that I know of. There's different services that that you can subscribe to that is going to pull in the various public information. I know one service that I know a lot of my investor friends subscribe to is PropStream. But there are a number of different services out there that pull in all that public information. But PropStream is the one that a lot of wholesalers and investors utilize for that information.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. On the realistic options, you'll see the first bullet point is the same as the other bullet point on the left side. So to me, the realistic option could be, hey, I started default. Maybe I'm a month behind, 45 days behind. I had a bump in the road, and I find a way to pay the past due balance. Potentially, do I go to a family member or somewhere to get funds to get caught up? That is still a realistic option. In my opinion, it's when someone is less than 60 days late on their mortgage. Next is I have there in green, which is kind of, to me, the whole focus of what we're talking about today is the individual needs to sell the property. If they're going to sell the property, I think there's two realistic options that they're going to use, and that is selling it through a realtor or selling it to a wholesaler. And we'll dig into that a little bit more. And then lastly, the realistic option is they may end up losing their property and ultimately go into foreclosure. So the idea is that things on the left, particularly the refinance, modification, forbearance, and the FSBO, not the deed in lieu, those are things that individuals may try to Google or think they can end up doing. And unfortunately, those are not used very often, or or something that the individual can actually utilize in a timely manner, and they end up wasting a lot of time. In reality, the real options are finding a way to get caught up, or, in my opinion, working with the right professional to sell their property in a timely manner. And we'll get to that process on a few more screens. So what I believe can be a win-win-win-win for the individual in a distressed situation. I believe that individuals should work with a realtor to properly market their property and sell it as any other property that would be a listing. Granted, there could be uniqueness about the property, full of items, could be, in maybe not the ideal condition, but ultimately work with a realtor, selling their property, the homeowner prevents foreclosure and retains some of their equity. That's the win for them. The win for you, the realtor, is you get the listing. If that homeowner technically avoids foreclosure, even though they have a number of mortgage late and possibly have destroyed their credit in other ways with other past due bills, that client has a chance to purchase again 12 months later. Maybe sooner, but it's very, very rare. There are some unique loan programs that if someone has some 90-day late, they could qualify to purchase with a large down payment. Usually it's around 30, 35, or 40% down payment. But they have to have a credit score above 620, some of these unique programs. It's very rare that someone's going to have a credit score that high when they have those type of mortgage lates when it's been a short amount of time. So that's why I say the client normally needs to wait 12 months. So they retain some of their equity. We all know we were at historically high equity right now in properties. You get the listing, they have a higher likelihood of purchasing again 12 months later. And then whether it's 12 months, 18 months, 2 years later, they go to purchase again, you get to help them buy, which creates a second transaction in the process. So the dreaded word of wholesalers. So from an investor standpoint, I regularly buy properties from wholesalers, and I buy properties off the MLS. For every property I buy on the MLS, I'll probably buy 6 or 8 through wholesalers or other off-market opportunities. The reason I bring up wholesalers and talk about this is that most people really don't know what a wholesaler is doing, or they think that, from the real estate and lending perspective, we think that wholesalers are the enemy. In fact, they're not the enemy; they're simply just competition. And particularly in distressed properties, they are the number one competition. So it's important that you know who you're competing against if you are going after the pre-foreclosure market. So again, the second bullet point there is to keep in mind that these wholesalers are focused on distressed properties as a main source of their business. And they're spending lots and lots of money and lots of time, soliciting these individuals. This is direct mail. This is text marketing. This is phone calls. This is hiring, VAs in other countries to make phone calls for them. There's a lot of things that are happening. And what they're doing is offering easy and attractive terms. It's important that you know that basically in every single market, all wholesalers are offering relatively the same thing, which is buying something in as a condition. You can leave behind all the junk you have in the basement or whatever it may be. It's going to be a cash transaction. It's going to be a quick close. They're going to push really, really big that there's no realtor commission, that there's no closing costs. All the costs are paid for by the wholesaler. And even sometimes they may even help with moving and coordinating that move if the individual does not have the funds to physically move into that apartment, to be able to rent the truck and do that apartment. A wholesaler may actually front some of those funds for them to be able to coordinate the move, knowing that they're making lots of money by giving them a below market price. So really and truly, we have to look at it's the realtor versus the wholesaler. And and when you're going out there and you're going after the individuals that are between 30 and 90 days late, so that are in default or leading up to pre-foreclosure. So I believe that in most situations that a realtor is going to be better suited for that distressed homeowner than a wholesaler, especially before they're getting very, very close to the potential foreclosure auction date. Kind of jumping to the last bullet point there, the wholesaler is likely the better option if the homeowner waits too long, unless you have cash buyers too, and we'll talk about that as well. But if they are literally days away from the house going to auction, going to a wholesaler to be able to purchase that property very, very quickly may be the best option. But prior to that, we'll call it fast deadline, the realtor, in my opinion, is going to be the better option for the client most of the time. And that's because, number one, is you're going to have the client's best interest at heart. The fiduciary duties of a realtor is far different than that of a wholesaler. The fact you're going to help properly market that property to a larger buyer pool in the MLS, no matter what the condition is, right? We're going to price properties accordingly based on their condition. In most situations, them paying the traditional commission and market on the MLS, the individual is going to protect more of their equity than the wholesaler potentially giving them a low value and undervaluing the property as a whole and selling them on the idea that the as-is quick close cash makes the most sense. Where in reality, they have a little bit more time to possibly sell that property and retain more of the equity that they've earned by being a homeowner. So I'll kind of pause right there. Wes, any questions regarding the wholesaling piece or kind of the competition between a realtor and a wholesaler marketing to these distressed properties?
Biggest things we're going to have when we go to compete against them, because wholesalers are people, when we call them, they get a lot of calls as far as for wholesalers wanting to make a quick close and just offering cash for them, is making certain that they understand if they wait, they can have a better outcome later. But we also have some cash offer people will do that too, and just emphasizing to them, hey, we can give you an instant offer as well.
100%, 100%. And that's how I'm leading, is that to me, as a well-rounded realtor or real estate team, having individuals that may be some of your clients that you can deliver some of these properties to that can be cash buyers and facilitate a quick close, even if you're helping facilitate the transaction at maybe even a reduced commission to make the numbers work. There is a lot of options where you can have it, what I call a hybrid between the traditional listing process and wholesaling. Usually that's if you're getting closer and closer to that auction timeline. But if you're utilizing some of the tools that are provided by Place and you are going after the distressed homeowners that are between 30 and 90 days late, getting to those individuals, trying to understand what they're going through in their process, and offering to be able to view the property and do a proper listing appointment, treating them with respect, I think is the better avenue than a wholesaler who may not be in their market that is making an offer sight unseen. What's important is that most wholesalers are never viewing the property until after they have that under contract. That alone, to me, is the one thing that can be shared with the homeowner of why you're going to provide better service. You may say, I'm sure a lot of wholesalers have called you and offered you cash offers without even seeing the house. Well, they're making you an offer without even seeing the house. Do you think they're giving you a realistic offer what the house is worth, or probably giving you a very, very low offer because they haven't been here? They're obviously going to say, yes, that sounds right. Well, I would love to come by and view the property and give you a personal assessment of what we think we could sell your property for. If you're doing that, you're going to win out in the listing appointment, in my opinion, versus the wholesaler just trying once again to sell quick and easy, quick and easy, quick and easy. And quick and easy doesn't matter until you get really, really close to that auction timeline. And then, as Wes mentioned, I have in that last bullet point, if you don't have a cash buyer or cash buyers that you're working with on a regular basis, there's likely team members or someone else, maybe even not on your team, that has access to cash buyers. Finding those individuals, understanding what their buy box is, what their timeline is, can make a difference. Me personally, I am a cash buyer. That's how I buy my investment properties. I buy properties on a regular basis, and it's very, very common that I find out about a property. I may view it today, and I may buy it tomorrow at noon. For me, that is very normal to see a property for less than 10 minutes and then buy it the next day. That's not something that everyone's going to do. Finding individuals like that can help you compete with the wholesalers, because if you think that distressed homeowners are not being solicited by wholesalers, that's a farce. I promise you, they're having dozens and dozens of people direct mail them, email them, text them, and call them. So lastly here, so let's say they go into foreclosure. Not that you want to end up having a scare tactic, for these individuals, but I think it's important for you to know kind of at a very high level what is going to entail if they do indeed go into foreclosure. The traditional wait times for an individual to come back and purchase a house, this is assuming obviously their credit's been repaired. If they're getting a conventional, so a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan, the traditional wait after a foreclosure is 7 years. For them to come back and get an FHA loan, which is the most common after someone's had a foreclosure, is 3 years. And then on a VA, the traditional wait is a 2-year. However, if the foreclosure gets included in a bankruptcy, they have special circumstances. There can be situations where they end up getting an FHA loan only in a couple years, or they get a conventional loan in 3 or 4 years. However, it's important to note that if someone defaults on a government-based loan, so think FHA and VA are backed by the government, any balance that they owe stays with them forever. We think about the student loans stay with you forever. As it's always been said that no matter what, you take student loans to death. Any amount of money you owe the government to these programs will stay with you forever. So if you end up defaulting on an FHA loan and you owed more when you count the original balance, the unpaid interest, the fees, the attorney costs, all that gets put together, if that number is more than what they were able to sell a house for, that unpaid balance remains there if you ever come back and try to get another government-backed loan again. So now that it's a scare tactic, but it's important to know when we're speaking with these individuals how important it is to prevent that foreclosure from happening. So even if they end up selling the property and they walk away with nothing and they miss out on any equity, that is still better than the property going all the way to foreclosure. Sounds very obvious, but unfortunately a lot of homeowners don't know that, or they simply wait too long in the process. So going back to the whole point of marketing to these individuals within the 30 and 90-day mark, as a realtor, is that sweet spot window of when you can start building a relationship, finding out what's going on in their life, make the personal connection, evaluate their property like any other listing, and possibly prepare them for selling the property on market, creating a listing for you, and helping them prevent foreclosure, and once again, retaining some of that equity. So ultimately, here's the realistic next steps for a homeowner that's under distress, in my opinion. This is Todd Johnson's opinion on really the 4 things that should happen. The homeowner sells the property to the realtor, stops foreclosure, retains some of their equity, even if it's a small amount of that equity. They use typo there. They use equity proceeds from the sale to clean up other debts. Right now, we're at record equity. They may turn around and have the most cash they've ever possibly had physically in their bank account. It may allow them to clean up a bunch of other debt and improve their life, in ways that they didn't realize they could. Rents for another year, 18 months or 2 years, and then works with you to purchase another house a year later or when their credit is repaired. That is the realistic steps that a homeowner, especially going past 60 days late on their mortgage, to position themselves without destroying their credit and possibly losing out on all that earned equity that they've had for quite some time. So, excuse me. What I would suggest on the pre-foreclosure default piece is taking the approach of trying to understand what's going on in their life. I personally am not a wholesaler. I've never wholesaled a property. I've bought plenty of off-market properties for people that I know that have been in distress or unique situations, but there's always been a personal connection, friend of a friend or a family member that's referred to me in buying those properties. My personal experience is very limited. I know lots of wholesalers that do this for a living, and I've heard many do trainings and present on what they do. All the great wholesalers lead in with caring about the client. I know a lot of wholesalers that are not very good wholesalers, but the ones that do a good job and have very successful businesses start with, stepping in and, and address the situation before it's too late, but also really trying to connect with the client on a personal level. That's where I think you as a realtor can do a far better job than what that wholesaler can do, even though both of you may care the same amount about what's going on in that homeowner's life. The ability for you to properly market that to a wider pool on the MLS, and the fact you're doing this day in and day out as a living, is going to be better for the client than that wholesaler, even if they do care. So, before I kind of wrap up here on the screen, share a few things about very quickly about Envoy and things we do. Nothing to do with the pre-foreclosure. As we all probably should know, Place acquired Envoy last summer. It's been about a year in the works, and we are part of the Place family and working with lots of teams throughout the country. We have all the mainstream products that you'd expect from a lender, but a few things right here that we have in house. I want to kind of plant a seed that can make a difference to your business. I think from our standpoint of supporting our Place and non-Place real estate business and our partners, it's important for us to not just take care of your buyers, but to help you create buyers. And our Envoy Flex, Envoy Invest, Envoy Expand, Envoy Rate Saver, and Envoy Equity Bridge are 5 of those things that are really making a difference in the marketplace right now. The Envoy Flex and the Envoy Expand are similar yet different, but these are unique programs that help out individuals that just may barely miss on qualifying for a traditional program or self-employed. Primarily, we can look at 12 months or 24 months of bank statements. And there's different creative ways that we can document and create income when someone may have creative accounting and may not document their income on their tax returns like normal. The Envoy Invest is our debt service coverage ratio loan for investors. It's something that I personally do a whole lot of. A large portion of my business is working with investors. As an active investor myself, I speak that language and work with a lot of different investors that are actually from other parts of the country investing in the Midwest, where we have great cash flow. What that Envoy Invest product is that we do not use the individual's current income in any way, form, or fashion. We compare the market rent of that property being purchased in comparison to the mortgage payment to determine a ratio. And if that ratio, along with their credit score, makes sense, we're going to approve that loan. Very, very unique, very, very easy to use, and we can still close in 25 to 35 days. Jumping to the bottom, the equity bridge, that's the buy before you sell program. Won't get into details on that. It's important that if you have an individual that needs to sell a property in order to qualify, we have a great option that can allow them to tap into the equity of their current home to be used towards the purchase of the next house, and they can purchase that next house and then have 90 days to sell their current home. Very unique program that's getting a lot of traction and can help a lot of individuals. Lastly, probably my favorite thing to share is our Envoy Rate Saver. Most of you probably know about temporary buy downs. Those kind of popped back up in the marketplace about 2 summers ago, but most temporary buy downs are seller buy downs. It's a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year seller paid buy down that's going to lower the rate for a period of time paid for by the seller. Right now, Envoy has our Envoy Rate Saver. And so on our conventional and our FHA loan products, which makes up about 3/4 of our business, right now we're offering a lender paid 1 year buy down, which means that if someone does a conventional FHA loan with us, we're going to lower their interest rate 1% for the first 12 months at no cost to them. It's a great program. I encourage you to reach out to, if you're working with an Envoy team member, ask them about the Envoy Rate Saver, or reach out to me and I'm more than happy to give you some more details. And
Go
lastly,
back for a second, Todd.
Go
back for a second, Todd.
Yeah, sorry.
On the Envoy Rate Saver, okay? I've got a listing, let's say. All right. And I've got a potential buyer and they're asking me for help with closing costs. Tell me how I would leverage the Rate Saver.
I'm glad you asked, Wes. It's great. So I'm going to back it up a little bit. If the questions that come up, and I should already share this. Someone does not have to qualify for the Envoy Rate Saver. If they are using Envoy for their financing and using a conventional, so Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan, or doing an FHA loan product, they can utilize the Envoy Rate Saver. So no hidden catch, simply put, what it is. So, use a simple example. If the interest rate is a 30-year fixed at 7%, using a simple example, they're going to have an effective rate of 6% that first 12 months. We provide them a subsidy to lower that payment to make the effective rate 6%. If you have a listing, this can be something that can be presented on that listing. If you reach out to me, I will give you some verbiage you can share. To me, there's 3 steps of how you properly would utilize sharing the Envoy Rate Saver if you're a partner with Envoy. Number one is you're going to share details of that within the MLS listing in 2 places. One, you can put a description inside the property description. You can share the information about this property is eligible for an interest rate reduction for the first year. Inside the agent notes, you can put a similar note because most agents do not read the property description. Next is you want to do an old school and get a flyer talking about their onboard rate saver that may be used at the open house or when individuals visit the property. And then the best one where we're getting lots of great traction is using a sign writer or an individual sign in the yard promoting the onboard rate saver and the lender paid reduction is getting lots of traction. A lot of people calling and asking about that product. When we get those calls, it helps create buyers. Even if those are not buyers for that property you have listed, the Envoy team member can kick back that individual to you, and it may create a buyer for you outside of that property. So it can help in a lot of different ways, and we're seeing lots of traction in all parts of the country with the onboard rate saver. A lot of people think there's a hidden catch to it, but in short, it's our way right now to capture market share and within the place world and with our non-place partners.
What does the rider look like? Because we have one say special financing, but it sounds like this is more descriptive or more specific.
Oh yeah, we have several different versions of yard signs and riders, and the rider is directing the person to that Envoy team member, obviously because we have to talk about the financing piece of it, and sometimes we use quickly code, sometimes it's directly with a cell number, but we have a variety of options that are pretty attractive.
Very good. I've got one other question for you too on the Envoy Equity Bridge. I've gone on a listing appointment and they said, well, we would buy, but we need to sell this home first. So on this, I know we've got other competitors that will give you an offer on that if you don't sell within 90 days. What happens if they don't sell within 90 days?
Well, great question. So within this program, the expectation is you're going to sell within 90 days. And the partner that Place and Envoy has, they've actually, I think, only had one property ever not sell within 90 days. So the idea is that they're going to only approve certain properties. So if you have that property that is in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky, or middle of nowhere, Tennessee, that may not be an eligible property because the marketability of that property could be minimal based on usually the population, or if it's a very, very unique property type. But if it's in a normal populated area, obviously they're going to give a value on that property that's realistic in their eyes. That question comes up all the time, Wes. During training, we asked the exact same question, and they surprisingly came back and said across the country they've had one property not sell within 90 days. And kind of the off the record answer was we would extend it and give them more time to sell that property. Not on here, but we have another product getting some really good traction. It's actually not available in Kentucky, but it's available in Tennessee, and that is our 5-day quick close HELOC. Our partner on that, and it works with a few other large mortgage banks as well. So you may have heard of the ability to do a 5-day quick close HELOC. We have something that's unique that others do not have, and that is the ability to do that same 5-day quick close HELOC on a property that is listed or going to be sold in the near future. So if an individual qualifies for their existing mortgage payment, or maybe they own that property free and clear, and they can qualify with both mortgage payments or just the new one, tapping into the equity on that paid off property or the equity of the house that they're still making payments on, getting that equity through a 5-day quick close HELOC as a down payment or to buy the next property is something that we haven't actually officially rolled it out. It's getting rolled out here in the coming week. But that's an option we have as well outside of the Equity Bridge product. We realize that is a major excuse or a major obstacle for a lot of individuals that they don't want to sell then buy. And so trying to find solutions for these common problems is an important piece of the Place plus Envoy relationship.
Very cool. Okay, thank you.
Todd?
Yeah, no, go for it.
Yeah, this is Jana. So I have I have a listing right now. I've talked to her a lot about the buy down. She is hesitating because it's just, it would be like $11,000 or 10 around there. So my understanding is with this rate saver that I could tell her that we could offer a 1% buy down. It would not cost her. Is that right?
Correct. This is a lender paid 1-year buy down. There's literally very few mortgage companies in the country doing this. because basically we're giving up a large portion of the revenue for this product. And the idea behind this is we're a referral-based world. This is a great way for us to drive traffic, and that's why we're seeing, you know, large increases in activity and production at Envoy because this product is drawing attention. We still offer a 3-2-1. We still offer a 3-2-1, a 2-1, and a 1-0 seller paid buy down. The most common would be the 2-1 seller paid buy down, which is what you're referencing. We're seeing a lot of traction with that as well. But traditionally, that 2-1 seller paid buy down occurs, you know, in place of that first price reduction. Say, for example, someone, you know, you think the house maybe should be listed for $430. They really think it's worth $450. You agree to list it for $445. Well, you don't really get the bites. So it's time to reduce the property. You know, you could, you know, not reduce it, or the most common is you do a minor reduction in that price. That way it triggers everything in the MLS for a price reduction. And then in addition to that minor price reduction, now the seller offers a 2-1 seller paid buy down. On that 2-1, the rate would drop down 2% the first 12 months and then 1% the second 12 months. Once again, very, very popular program out there. It's just a big number sometimes for a seller to want to give up in the very beginning. But I personally think, you know, our lender paid buy down is free. So you should be presenting that as part of your listing presentation every single time. That's the idea between the Place Plus Envoy partnership is we want you on every single listing to say, hey, through one of our lending partners, we have a 1-year buy down program that's going to cost you nothing that we will market as part of our as part of our marketing package on your home. And then you can twist it and sell it however you want to. It's not costing you anything, not costing the sellers anything. And even if someone doesn't use Envoy for that financing, if it helps you get that listing, it's still a win.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. All right. Thank you.
And we're seeing business off of the listings and, from this in other ways. And I personally closed a transaction last month. They went tap into the Envoy Rate Saver. It was from a listing in New Orleans with a place team. They're already pre-approved. And real story is that the buyer's niece was actually their loan officer. And instead of using their niece, they worked with us to utilize the Envoy Rate Saver because we gave them, much better terms, in this case, what their niece could do. And that was a real story I was personally involved in. Any other questions on this before I kind of finish and wrap up my last little slide?
Go ahead.
Easy enough. So obviously my contact information is there on the very bottom. That is my personal cell. I tell everyone the same thing. Do not hesitate to reach out to me anytime before 10 p.m., which would be Eastern time. So it's 9 o'clock for some of you, 10 o'clock for others. Obviously Kentucky and Tennessee, we have that the split time zone. If I can be a resource to you in any way, do not hesitate to reach out. If you're working with another Envoy team member, whether they follow my group or not, you run into issues or challenges, you can always reach out to me and I will make sure things are taken care of. And just see there on the top, we are hiring talented loan officers in different markets. Large portion of our growth strategy is getting great referrals from the place teams out there throughout the country. So if you know someone that we should at least have an informal conversation with, please connect me. Shoot me a text, shoot an email, get that to me, and myself or Jesse or Stu want to engage with that person, and we will see if they're the right individual to be part of the Envoy team and to help support the Place Plus Envoy growth. But other than that, that's all I have today. Hopefully, if you're watching this now, watching this later, if you walk away with one nugget that could change your business, to me it was a benefit. And like I said, the ending piece of it is keep the consumer's best interest at heart. Try to get to them before the 90-day mark. And I think there's good opportunities within the distressed properties.
Right. Thank you so much.
That is it, Wes. Anything else that you have for me today?